What's happening, everybody? Miss Mac here, bringing you another fun league from the TGR. This is the Dungeons and Dragonites league. So you may have noticed from the graphic that there is a Terra Orb very far away from you, because the main rule in this league is Terra is forbidden. I'm going to say it again for those of you who may have skipped over the brief intro. Terra is forbidden. This is a no Terra league experience. But today I am joined by two wonderful co-hosts. Ted, please say hello.
Hello, everybody. My name's Ted. I am one of your coaches in the league. I am your coach of the Sky Strikers.
And I'm also done for his first. I'm also done. Well, I'm here with Dunn for his first appearance on PRs. Say hello.
Hello, I'm also a coach on the Midland Mallow. I'll drop my spaghetti already. Midland Marrowax is what I meant to say.
It's all good. I'm leaving that edited. So we're just going to go over the teams, and then at the end you will see the top 3 teams from each of us here on the call. There are 10 teams to go over, and there are some unique mechanics regarding the rules of this league, so we're just going to get into a few of those, and then we'll start looking at the teams.
Yeah,
Alright,
sounds good.
So rule number 1 is you will use every single Pokemon on your team to make 2 teams for your match each week. That means every Pokemon that you drafted for this week 1, all 8 of them have to show up across both of those teams. So you're going to have at least 4 repeat mons, since teams are 6 Pokemon deep, and you're gonna need 12 mons. You only have 8, so there's the math done for you. But you have to make 2 teams every week, and every mon has to show up across both teams. Don't get a forfeit because you forgot this rule, please. Rule number 2 is just an extension of the first one. If there is a tie after 2 battles, you do not have to then go make a third team. You can just pick one of the 2 teams that you've already used, does not matter which one, and you play out the third game. Standard, best of 3 type rules, all that jazz. And of course, the Pokemon that are repeated across the 2 teams do not have to have the same movesets or items or even abilities. They just have to show up. Am I missing anything briefly, gents?
No, you covered
nope.
everything.
Yeah, I think that's the basics. If you got any more rule clarifications, feel free to ask a guild leader, and check the document. Alright, let's get into why you guys are really here. Let's talk teams. Starting with, the first pick of the draft went to Dunn. No surprise there. Mod privilege, hee. And his Midland Marrowax. So, actually, let's start with Ted. Why don't you talk about this team?
Okay, so first off, we have to address the elephant in the room. I can't believe you finally drafted this Pokemon, and we all know what mon it is. He finally drafted Macargo, the one Pokemon he called Cheeks. He finally drafted it as a Paladin, so that's very exciting. Dunn's team is very unique. I don't know what he's cooking, but I'm excited to see what he does with it. But I guess the main things that we see here is that Elekid with the redirection, because introduced in the Indigogus, we did get a few Follow Me users. Elekid is one of those Follow Me users, so having the ability to redirect taunts and other super effective attacks from a cargo to get up a Shell Smash is really nice. He has some good support as well with the Articuno and the Haunter. I'm a big fan of Haunter, Trick Room, Icy Wind, several other good damage reducing moves as well. So he has really good support stuff there, and he has some good attackers as well. Hitmonchan with Iron Fist gets a lot of punching moves, so getting that Iron Fist boost is really nice. But Inner Focus is nice as well. Stopping from getting flinched by opposing fake out users. So there's some really good options that Dunn has. I don't quite understand a few of the different pieces, but that's fine. We'll get to see how his team progresses throughout the season, because we are as the season progresses, guys, the teams do get better because we can upgrade at least 5 pieces on our team. So yeah, really excited to see what Dunn does.
Alright, I'll jump in. I will also echo Ted's sentiments. You definitely have a lot of very interesting pieces here. That Elekid is probably one of my actually your whole part tier is probably like the favorite mons on that team this team, but I'm a little bit biased in saying that because quite frankly, not only did I really think that the Bard tier was very difficult to draft from, I thought there was a lot of challenging ways to get value out of that tier, and since you have to bring every mon at least once per week, it's hard to have any dead weight, but I think you found some really great options there. I also really like your first pick, which ended up being Hitmonchan. I think just a solid all-around offense and supportive mon like that is a great way to start any draft, especially one of a low power format. But yeah, why don't you tell us about what you think? Because I'm interested to see what you're cooking up to.
Right. Well, I mean, the best I guess I can go through the my line of thinking when I was going through the draft. To be honest, when I picked up Hitmonchan, I was just ever since that video came out of the Hitmonchan rock paper scissors, I was thinking I'd quite like to use this Pokemon, so I picked that up. And full disclosure, Miss Mag, myself, and Pat all kind of bounced ideas. After I picked that, Miss Mag said a weak armor Pokemon would go good with that. So I just thought, Macargo. It's funny how that turned out. And then after that, it was very much just trying to find value and kind of try to find some sort of synergy between the rest of the team and what I already had. But as an example, when I picked Haunter, I was thinking that would be a good Trick Room setter for Macargo if I need it.
Yeah, no, that's totally reasonable.
I will say though, I think Paladin was the most difficult tier to pick from because there was a lot of just. I looked through the list and I was just like, yeah, these are all Pokemon certainly. Nothing was really leaping out at me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think for those of you guys who are, obviously new in terms of like understanding this league, I'll just briefly kind of go over the different tiers so you have an idea. It was basically like a standard tier draft where it's like you have 4 different tiers, but the tiers for classes, so fighter class, fighter tier is a lot of mons who are predominantly physical attackers, wizards are predominantly special attackers, paladins are, I would say, hodgepodge, sort of mixed bag of both. You have some offensive options, you have some defensive options, kind of like what paladins do. And then the bards are like pretty much almost all pure support options, which is why we have things like the Elekid. So I did also think paladin was a little bit hard to shop in, but I thought it was a little bit better because there were some clearly offensive options or defensive ones like the Articuno. Alright, let's move on to the second team of the draft, which is Belgian Oricorios. Ted, why don't you jump on in?
So this is Spook's team, so he has some very interesting options as well. I guess one of the main pieces there is that Crabominable. He does have, I believe, 2 Trick Room setters. I'm pretty sure Wigglytuff gets Trick Room. And obviously the Executor. So he has his team is mostly Trick Room reliant. From what I can see, his fastest Pokemon, I think, is the Flareon. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but
yeah,
yeah,
you're wrong. It's Quillfish.
It's Quillfish, okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, the majority of his team is really slow. So most of the time, at least here in the first 2 weeks, Spooks is going to definitely rely on that Trick Room mode. But he has some really strong Trick Room options, like I mentioned, the Crabominable, Flareon, and the Ampharos. So yeah, his options are really strong, but he also has some good supportive pieces. Obviously, Wigglytuff with Frisk is really good. Scouting out for items, competitive is really nice as well to deter Intimidate, and he also has Intimidate on his own for Quillfish. So yeah, he has some really strong options. It is going to be really hard to rely on a fast mode, especially like when you're going up against like other faster teams. So they do have to sort of immediately get Trick Room up in order to hit hard fast with the Crabominable and various other Pokemon on their team. So yeah, we'll see what happens here in the first 2 weeks.
Alright, done. Take it away.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I do quite a lot of the picks. Like, I think the combination of Crabominable, Executor, and Wigglytuff are quite good. I gotta admit, I find some problems with the Paladin tier because there's two Eviolite users that I mean, both of them quite like the item, so you pretty much kind of limiting yourself in that sense. But I suppose you could find something to kind of help either or, without needing to use Eviolite on both. But yeah, I kind of share the same sentiment as Ted on this one.
Right, well, Spooks is actually my week 1 opponent, so I'm not going to be saying too much, as I've already done a good deal of dissecting this team. So I'll just say 3 things. One, unfortunately, Ted, you were wrong. Wigglytuff does not get Trick Room. There's only Trick Room Center, it's just the Executor, which is probably good news for me, honestly. The second thing is, despite this team having, I would say, mostly mid-speed tier Pokemon, like, this fastest one is the Quillfish, which is like 86, and the rest of them are like in the middle. Flareon looks fast, but unfortunately its base speed is like 65. But these mods also hit like a truck. Like, Ampharos is a real actual threat. Like, Mon hits ridiculously hard, and it got some very painful upgrades to its move pool that make it a real force. So if Spooks can play the I'm just gonna live hits and kill you type of game, this team will do very well for the first 2 weeks. And, you know, tools like the really bulky Eviolite mons that have very few weaknesses from this Paladin tier, and the Intimidate from the Quillfish, and just Wigglytuff kind of just being a pain, like, in general. It's definitely got a lot of maneuvering to enable those fighters and wizards to kind of do what they do best, which is damage. But I will agree with you, outside of like the first 4 mons on the left, he doesn't really have too much damage coming out of the rest of his team. Oh, this is one thing that we did mention about the teams that are going to change. So after the first 2 weeks, there will be a transaction period where coaches can exchange up to 5 of these Pokemon that they have for stronger ones, and then they will also pick up 2 new Pokemon. Instead of asking myself and the co-host what 5 they're not going to keep, I say, why don't we think about 3 Pokemon that each team will keep? Like, which 3 do you predict that will stay on this team past the recruitment phase?
For me, 3 Pokemon that will keep is probably Ampharos and Crabominable, and then the last one could be a toss-up. Like, he could keep Quillfish as well. He could 100% keep Executor. I would say it's a tie between those 2, and then everything else you could honestly drop it and upgrade it. But yeah, I would say like Ampharos, Crabominable, and Quillfish. I would say is like the top 3 I would probably keep on this team.
Done.
I'm gonna go a completely different route. I think he's gonna keep. I think he's gonna keep Executor. I think he's gonna keep Sliggoo, and I think he's gonna keep Wigglytuff.
Fair enough. I was actually leaning towards the same route that Dunn is. I actually think he'll also keep Executor and Sliggoo, but I also think he's going to keep Ampharos. Like, that mon is scary. That's all I could say about it. It's a nice little slow mode package, and there isn't like too much weakness sharing, which is one of the reasons I think those 3 could possibly make the cuts. And in the spirit of fairness, we're just going to backtrack to Dunn's team and talk about the 3 mons that we think he will also keep, since we didn't ask him this question earlier.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's honestly, if we could, I think you would probably drop everything because it's a little bit rough at the moment, but it makes sense kind of right now. But I guess the 3 he would probably keep is the Hitmonchan, Haunter, and I would say Elekid. He could obviously not keep Elekid because I would most likely want to upgrade in redirection potentially. So in that case, I'll probably I'll keep Macargo. for a little bit longer as well as an option if you don't want to keep Dunnakhiin.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking the same. Probably Hitmonchan, Haunter, and then probably one of the two Paladins. I might think, well, bias against Macargo aside, I might think he keeps Articuno, but that's just me. Just to have some like nice handy speed control, fake out Tailwind, fake out Trick Room is pretty nice. Just with a little package like that. Dunn, what do you think of it? What do you think you'll keep?
Well, I'm certainly not keeping Macargo, but I've already said that in one of the channels. I think you guys have pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think I'd be looking as it is at the moment. I'd probably be keeping Hitmonchan, Haunter, and Articuno.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Because remember, you'll also get 2 new mons from this power level tier once you rank up and recruit 5 new ones. But let's keep the gravy train rolling and pay a visit to Ye Old Kingdom, coached by C-Red, who has got to have the funniest logo I've ever seen in a draft league before.
I didn't realize that was this. I thought that was a placeholder.
Yeah, I thought it was a placeholder too. I didn't realize that he actually made Ye Old Kingdom. So shout outs to you. Dunn, why don't you start taking us through this team?
Okay. I'm going to start things off with I can see some synergies, like there's the Vulpix to set Sun, Leafeon to take advantage of the Sun, also Camera Up to kind of get a damage boost from it. But it seems to me like C-Rad's gone for value rather than synergy at this point, because with picks like Magneton, I forget, is that one Tinkertuff, or I think that one's Tinkertuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, gone for mons like Magneton, Tinkertuff, Galarian, Slowbro, etc. This isn't a bad thing at this point, but it could be quite difficult for them to come up with a plan during for a matchup, particularly when every single Pokemon needs to be used. And he's also got the same kind of problem as multiple EVO-like users.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Dunn. I would say like he decided to go a different route. He didn't want to really pick up synergy, mostly value. Yeah, he does have like the mini Sun mode with Vulpix and Camerupt and Leafeon, but after that, there's not really much that's really synergizing really well. It's mostly value. He does have like Trick Room and Tailwind variants. He does have Intimidate users, so he can be quite bulky on the physical side. He does have a little bit of phasing as well with the Tinkertuff, with like Encore, Mold Breaker, Fake Out, Thunderwave. So there's some really good options here. And also, like Dunn said, like his team is gonna struggle a little bit with Eviolite because there's 3 Pokemon that would definitely love it. Even though Vulpix is real, it would definitely appreciate Eviolite. So yeah, there's gonna be a fight for that item.
You know, honestly, I can't say I agree on the Eviolite point. I actually think there is some pretty clear. Again, probably a little bit of bias. I think there's one clear winner of Eviolite here, and I think it's the Tinkertuff. And I'm gonna tell you why. The beauty of Magneton is, despite the fact that it now benefits from an Eviolite, because it at one point was a fully evolved Pokemon, it has the stats to match. So it can kind of hold its own pretty nicely, even in the current power level, without needing that Eviolite. The other benefit is it gets sturdy, so like it's guaranteed to live any one hit from full HP, so you can just take full advantage of that. As far as Vulpix is concerned, yeah, sure, I'm pretty sure it would not really be unappreciative of having Eviolite, but like you could just easily toss a Sash on it. But Tinkertuff has like a really solid typing that I think a lot of his other mons can like benefit from. For example, it's basically his only source of like fairy offense. So like it's just nice to have Natmon kind of stick around as long as possible, as it can be very annoying with like Fake Out and Thunderwave and Knockoff Encore, like you gentlemen have just said. But that's kind of my take on it. I also agree that he picked value over synergy, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I am just curious to see how he will build for these 2 weeks, because like even if you slap the Sun mode on every one of your teams, like just for like the first 2 weeks, it's going to be interesting how to fit the other pieces around the Sun, because like Tingatuff does not really enjoy Sun being up. It's a Steel type. Magneton does not enjoy Sun being up. It's a Steel type. You know, it's kind of interesting how those questions kind of come into play. All right. Well, what do we think? What do we think are 3 months that C-Ride is going to keep to the next phase?
I would say he keeps the Galarian Slowbro to fully evolve Pokemon, so why not? I think he also keeps probably Leafeon as well. And then for third, it could obviously be a toss-up as well. He could keep Tinkatuff if he doesn't see good enough value for Fake Out and a solid Fairy type, which will probably be more solid Fairy types as you move up. But I would say those three would probably be keepers.
Okay, that's fair. I also think he'll keep the Galarian Slowbro, because Quick Draw, Quick Claw is really obnoxiously busted. And I think it's just a solid Pokemon in that tier. It gets offensive coverage and it can set speed control with Trick Room. I think that's great. I also think he'll probably keep one of the 2 elements of the Sun mode. Probably going to keep Leafeon. I don't think you would necessarily need to keep Vulpix. But if we factor in Camera Up as well, I can see him keeping either of those 2 for the Paladins. And my third thing I actually think he'll keep is the Bombardier. I think it's a really solid Pokemon in that tier. And it gives some nice typing. Like, Sun teams are notorious for having ground weaknesses, and the Slowbro already, unfortunately, adds to that, because it's not half water like its Cantonian brethren are. So I think the Bombardier kind of picks up the pieces of a lot of this team together. Dunn, what do you think? 3 months, he's going to keep.
Well, I agree with the both of you. I think the Slowbro stays. Honestly, the other 2, I'm not too sure, because if he decides he wants to go the Sun route, I could see he keeps Leafeon and Bombardier as well. But he might just pivot off that, and if he does that, I could see Magneton and maybe even Tinkatuff staying as well. I don't think the Camera Up stays, because there'd be a bigger argument if Darkspun was still around, but because it isn't, I don't really see that staying.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that Camera Up also gets Lava Plume. That's a shame someone took Darkspun before this team could get around to getting it.
I wonder who did that.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
know.
Maybe we'll find out in a future slide, because it did get drafted.
Yeah.
Alright, so speaking of Darkspun, it is my
Darkspun.
team. Hey, look at that! There it is. I guess I sniped it when I saw like 3 fire types going, and decided that I really wanted a bulky fairy mod. But yes, I am playing in this league as well. I did not reveal that at the start, for a little surprise. I'm bringing my old draft team, the Marauders, out of retirement. I figured it was a little bit more fitting given our lore. So I will turn it over to you two to talk about my team.
So,
you want to go first, Ed?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. Your team is relatively fast. The fastest Pokemon obviously being that Ambipom, really good fake out support, but it can be offensive with Skill Link. Now, before we actually edited before we edited the fighter tier, Chinchino was also part of it, so it was kind of a toss up between those 2, especially at the beginning. But since we moved Chinchino up, I would say it's probably the better normal type now. Skill Link is an awesome ability because it does have triple axle, tail slap, various other multi-hitting moves. So having the ability to do that and like pair it up with loaded dice as well, if you don't want to run Skill Link, is really nice as well. You have some really good bulky options, like you mentioned. The Doxfun is a really good fairy type of the ability allowing it to, not take any damage from fire type moves and get a defense boost. Is really nice as well. Altaria is really good for stopping weather because a lot of teams, spoiler alert, do have access to weather. So being able to stop that is really nice. And then like some trick room options, especially like with the Poltegeist, is I believe the only trick room setter on their team. So pairing that up like next with the Caparajah, which is a really slow steel type, is really good as that. And then you obviously Go-Goat. I was also looking at Go-Goat, spoiler alert. Yeah, Go-Goat is really good grass type. I really like it on this team. And also you picked up Magby, which is another Pokemon that does get follow me as well. So you have some different ranges of synergy with Tailwind or Trick Room. So yeah, I would say your team is really well balanced, at least in the first 2 weeks.
Done. Don't be shy.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a bit late for that, but anyway, your team it's one of the only teams, at least from my perspective, that not only has good synergy with itself at this stage, but it's got a lot of potential in the later stage. So at the moment, a lot of the things I'm picking up is you could do like beat up with Ambipom and Poltergeist. I think Magby gets Lava Plume. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if it does, that's a good synergy with Darkspawn. And you've got a lot of pieces that you can easily swap out to get kind of keep your synergies, but stronger. I'm going to go with the word stronger. But yeah, it's a really nicely put together team.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I've never been a huge fan of like the actual drafting process. I'm more of a prep and play kind of guy, but the uniqueness of this tier list and having to think about like which mons I would keep and which ones would leave my party to get replaced by stronger ones made this a very fun puzzle. So I'm actually quite happy with what I came up with. You two did hit the nail on the head. I do have some very good speed control options with Tailwind and Trick Room. I do have my little combo with the Ambipom and the Poltegeist, and Magby does get Lava Plume, so I have that with the Doxfun. And I just picked up some pretty good offense. Yeah, Go-Goat was really something I had not actually originally planned on getting. I actually wanted a water type first. But there weren't really too many good ones left in Paladin that kind of suit my needs, so unfortunately I had to snipe our dear friend Ted here. But I'm excited. I never really got a chance to use many of these mods on this team before. In fact, I think the only ones I've used before are Ambipom and Doxpawn. So it's gonna be fun. Which 3 Pokemon do you think I'll be keeping over to the next phase?
I would say you keep Ambipom, Doxfun, and the Poltegeist.
Okay. Done.
Yeah, I'm struggling with. I think for sure you keep Ambipom. I think for sure you keep the Altaria because being able to stop weather is very handy no matter what, and there's only a few Pokemon in this gen that I think get that ability. The third one could be completely. It could be. I could see anything except maybe Caparajah staying from the rest of the team.
Yeah. Well, I won't spoil too much, but I will say that you are definitely right. Ambipom is 100% staying. You can, if you're watching this video hoping that it gets dropped, don't even bother. I specifically drafted it round 1 because I intended to keep it for the rest of the draft. I won't spoil my whole plans, but that one is definitely staying. It's such a great versatile mod for this power level. All right. Let's move on to our next team, which is Lay Village Corbinites, coached by Anthony, aka Ant-Man. Ted, why don't you start us off?
All right, Ant-Man. We're gonna go mano a mano with this team. So his team is definitely relying on that terrain mode with the concursion, which is a little bit concerning. But with this early stage, I think it's really good. He has two Pokemon that can rely on that being Sceptile with Unburden with the Electric Seed, and then the Alolan Raichu, which gets a speed boost from Electric Terrain. So he has good ways of relying with that. Typhlosion is a really good special attacker, backing up with a Scarf, and you can spam Fast Eruptions, which I really love. One of my favorite strats of all time. Scyther is a really good Tailwind user. Not the best one, but it is good here in the early stage. Lapras is a pretty decent water type, and also having the ice typing as well to it is really nice as well. I'm a little bit iffy on Palossand. It has some sort of synergy with Lapras because you can use a water type move and get that water compaction and get a weakness policy boost if you really want to under Trick Room, but only Trick Room setter is Alolan Raichu, and that's really fast. So if you want to be relying on a fast Trick Room user, then be my guest, but it's not quite ideal. And then like I said, like Pincurchin provides the terrain, and then Impidip is a really good prankster user for support screens and Thunder Waves and parting shots. So yeah, his team is well rounded. It is kind of predictable because I believe at this stage there are some Ice Spinner users, so you can stop terrain from going up, but they do have other options if they don't want to be totally reliant on electric terrain.
I'll jump in. This is actually my other opponent in this early initial recruitment phase, so I won't say but too much because I gotta start cooking for him too. But I actually really like this team. I think it has a very strong and apparent hyper offense mode, which is quite terrifying at this stage because you're not guaranteed to have enough defensive tools or even enough bulk to survive a lot of these hits, like Typhlosion with Scarf Eruption. Like, it's already hard enough to deal with that, or even if it's like Specs. Raichu getting the double speed can be really annoying for your team. Very hard to disrupt that. Sceptile's got a whole unburdened mode thanks to the Pincurchin. Like, the Pincurchin really glues this team together, and I really like how it was incorporated. Even has Lightning Rod for Lapras if you want to do that one game, and Grass type attacks are almost god tier awful into this team with a Grass type, a Fire type, and a Bug and Flying type. You probably don't want to be carrying Grass moves all that much. And then Impidip kind of just like rounds it out with just some like low tier prankster support. It's an annoying team. Also, just to correct your point, unfortunately for Ant-Man, Raichu does not get Trick Room. There are actually no Trick Room setters on this team at all, not even one.
Okay.
But this team,
it did.
But this team has such a like really obnoxious fast mode that like I think the Palossand, while I'm also iffy on it, I've never been like high on it in the slightest personally. I think just having the fact that there are slow mons on this team means that he doesn't get rolled over by someone just setting up Trick Room. So it's a kind of balanced team. I can appreciate that for this stage, similar to my own. Dunn, what do you think?
I kind of agree with all the points that are being made, but I'm gonna add a bit of a wrench to the system and say I feel like the Pincurchin is like it is definitely the glue of the team, but I think it's quite detrimentally the glue of the team because I look at it and I think if that gets knocked out, what else does the team do with each other? I mean, there's I imagine Impidimp gets some sort of weather, like sunny day or something like that. I mean, there's Tailwind, but it's kind of just...
It does not get either weather, so...
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels like as soon as Pincurchin goes, kind of all the synergy of the team goes as well, and it kind of just falls apart, but that could just be me being a bit too English is hard. The word completely got out of my head. Yeah, it feels a bit detrimental, is all.
It's a valid take. Like, the fact that the team is so reliant on a Pokemon can easily be its greatest strength, and it can easily be its greatest weakness at the same time. But you might see a bit of that in the first 2 weeks. After he has his battles, we'll see how much of a detriment or a success that Pincurchin has been. Because I've already started doing some light prep for this team, and I gotta say, I am lucky I still have hair at this point. I'll just put it that way. 3 mons that we think he's gonna keep, gentlemen?
I would say he keeps Sceptile, Typhlosion, and then he could honestly keep Incursion or Impidimp. But I would say Sceptile, Typhlosion, and Pincurchin.
Yeah, I agree with Pincurchin and Sceptile. I think I could see him doubling down on the electric terrain. But I could see Cypher staying as well because that's a fairly good Pokemon that he's got.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with keeping the electric terrain mode with Sceptile, Pincurchin, and probably Alolan Raichu. Because then he can. There are so many different ways he can augment that mode. If you pick up a Psychic Terrain setter, then like Raichu now has access to Expanding Force. So yeah, no, there's a lot of crazy things he can do with this team. Just by keeping those 3 mons around. So good on him. Nice draft. All right. Next team we have is the Chillin' Chespins. I'm gonna take it back to Dunn. Talk about this team.
Okay. I think this is another team where they went for value rather than synergy because I have to admit, aside from Alchemy decorating everything, I'm not really sure what they do with each other. I suppose Flamigo could come in and kind of duplicate the buffs from Decorate. Dracloak could potentially be a screen setter because I have used screens Dragapult in the past and it's been quite good. I imagine it can do that kind of light, but I don't know. I'm struggling to see what's going on with this team. To be honest with you, there's good picks, but as a team, I'm not too sure.
Well, I'll just jump in and say, one of the combos that he himself mentioned is that he has Surf or Cloak next to Weakness Policy Colossal, and he's promised he won't bring that every week, but, I mean, I don't believe him. It's a pretty decent combo for a low tier. Like, the amount of damage that Colossal will take, because it can't Terra out of being weak to Surf, so it's going to take quad effective. But Dracloak does not have the highest special attack stat in the world, and it's not a stab move, so he could conceivably get it going, and then Cole could potentially sweep your whole team. That's like probably I would say like one of the bigger combos, other than like the decorate stuff. But I agree, this is kind of like Ye Old Kingdom in the sense that they really did go. They tried to go a little bit more, I would say, more mid ground between synergy and value picks, and this one, like Charles, coach of the Ye Old Kingdom, he leaned more into value, and I think this team actually leans a little bit more into synergy, without the whole team being like revolving around like a central kind of concept. Ted?
Yeah, I would agree with you guys as well. I guess like another mode he could do as well is the Mudbray and the Frostlass because he does have Ice Shard and Stamina with Weakness Policy as well. So unfortunately, there is no Trick Room as well on this team, so there's no really good way to utilize that. But it is interesting. His only tail, or he has 2 Tailwind Pokemon, Lumineon and the Flamigo. So if he wants to go for a fast Mudbray option, which I don't think that will work quite as well, but it is there. So like in addition to the Colossal mode, there's that as well, which is not really quite effective, but it is an option.
Let's talk about the 3 mons we think will survive the rank up phase and stick with this team, I'll start with my 3. I think Alcremie stays. It's generally a very good support Pokemon, and Decorate is such a uniquely powerful move that as the teammates get stronger, like having to deal with those teammates getting souped up attack stats is pretty dangerous. I would think that's a very solid pick for this stage of the draft and can potentially just ride it all the way out to the end. I also feel kind of similarly about Flamigo. Also pretty solid. That's like a nice little combo. I decorate something, and then can co-star, or you can decorate the Flamigo itself. It already has Scrappy. Like you're just punching holes and stuff at that point. Third pick. Man, I don't know. Though, like those two call out to me. I guess maybe you could keep the Lumineon. It's one of the better mons, I would say, in the Bard tier, but like. That's not, in my opinion, that's not saying like a whole bunch, but I find it difficult that he'll keep the coal mode. I guess he could keep the coal mode, but the problem is as the mons get stronger, that means even the non-stab surfs probably also get stronger, so like I'm not really seeing much love from the Paladin tier, and I don't really think he'll keep Vileplume either, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would also agree with you. I think he keeps Alcremie. I would definitely say, like, as the tiers progress, like, it's really nice to have Decorate in the back for that. I would say he keeps Frostlass and Flamigo. I think, like, having a good, like, Ice type is really nice as the tiers progress, because we're going to see more of Dragon types, really strong Dragon types, so having an Ice type is really nice there, and then Flamigo is always nice to have a strong Fighting type and a strong Brave Bird, so... Yeah, I would say those 3 he keeps.
Alright, done. Let's hear it.
I agree with the Alcremie, Frostlass, and Flamigo, but I'm going from different... Well, I mean, Alcremie is going to get more value from Decorate as tiers unlock. I think Frostlass stays, because as the tiers unlock, they get more access to Anger Point. So that seems like a future combination they could do. And Flamigo, I'm going to put this evil out into the world. They could become the villain of the league and draft Dozagiri. And if they do, Flamigo's going to be a problem.
Oh well. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because it's thankfully too early to deal with Dondozo. I don't even think any of those pieces are. I think maybe Dondozo's like the epic tier, but that's coming later on down the line. Let's move on to the next team, which is the Montello Crobats, coached by Roydman. Ted, why don't you take us through the initial thoughts on this team?
So at the time of this recording, Royman did release his own personal take on his team, so go watch that. But I think it seems really interesting. He has some good synergies here as well. His team is pretty fast with the Dodrio and the Houndoom. He has a ways of setting up Sun with the Grumpig. I believe he has other ways of setting up Sun, but the main one there is with the Grumpig, Sunny Day, activate Chlorophyll and Solar Power respectively on those 2 mons, so you can hit really hard and do a good amount of damage turn 1. Sandslash, finally somebody picked the mascot of our glorious owner Pat Mac. But yeah, other than that, there's not really a whole lot going on with the team. I would say it's another team that has a ton of value, but has very few synergistic pieces. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he does.
Right, done. Why don't you give us your thoughts?
I can't really go into a massive amount of thought because he's actually my week 1 opponent. But I say I like the team. It's been a pain to prep against, but it's a fairly solid team. Like it is. the synergies in it aren't as obvious, but they are there. Such as the example of there's Dodrio next to Sandslash. Dodrio could Tailwind for Sandslash to Earthquake pretty freely. There's 2 Trick Room setters. I believe Carbink gets Trick Room. There's the table. There we go, yeah. There's the table, which could synergize quite well with Quillfish's Intimidate. The 2 outliers are Houndoom and Victory Bell, but I think they're good enough that they could find a spot in the team.
Yeah, that's fair. I also like this team. I think it's a very bulky team. Like, I see the table, I see the Sewing, Quillfish, I see the Carbink, and Grumpig. They're all very solid, bulky mons. And then on the offensive side on the left, like, those fighters and wizards, they hit reasonably hard. They're not like the strongest hitting mons, but you know, they get their job done. So, and like you said, Dunn, the synergies here are, I feel like, less apparent, so there's more room for a good amount of surprises. And I am very curious to see what this team will do.
What do you at the end of the week when I fight them? So
sorry, what did you say?
I just say we'll see when I face them. So
yeah, well, why don't you talk about the 3 mons you think your week 1 opponent will keep after this recruitment phase?
Oh, okay. I think the 2 paladins stay, so I think he keeps Carbink and Avalog. Oh, then I think he keeps the Quillfish, because I think having that Intimidate in a Poison Dark Pokemon's pretty good.
What? Ted, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say he most definitely keeps Quillfish. I think having Intimidate is really nice, especially with Eviolite. And then for the final 2 is kind of a toss-up here. He could keep Carbink and Avalug, because, you know, having some sort of Trick Room variant is really nice. But he could also technically keep the Dodrio and the Sandslash as well if he really wants to keep that, like, mini Earthquake immune mode with Tailwind. So yeah, he could honestly go either way.
Okay. I think for me, I will agree with the Quillfish. I think Quillfish is another one of those good value first tier bards that puts in the work. I'm not super high on the paladins as you guys might be, but I could also see him keeping Carbink because, like, Dirty Trick Room is just good. Like, yeah, it pretty much dies from like any really strong, reasonable steel type hit, but it's got tools. I also think he'll keep Victory Bell because I think that opens him up to exploring potential like stun or weather related synergies later on in the draft. Alright, we got 3 more teams to go, so let's hit them. Brooklyn Paradox is up next. And I will actually start this one off because there is a mon there that you might see that I happen to love a lot. And yes, this guy did draft Mismagius. I'd say he drafted a really strong team in terms of like offensive options, but the type chart is like way all over the place. But like Mismagius and Delphox hit so hard. Virizion can be set up to hit very hard if there is speed up on this team. I am not sure if that's the case. Greedent can also get really crazy if it's allowed to set up Belly Drum. Squawkabilly is really good for Intimidate at this stage. Tailwind, a lot of fun tools there. The only thing I'm not a fan of on this team, honestly, are the bards. I think they're honestly both terrible, but that's not saying but so much because the bard tier I felt was really difficult to draft from, but like I do personally think he could have done better than those 2. What are you guys' thoughts?
I guess I'll go first. So they are my week 1 opponent, so I can't say a whole lot of prep because I have basically finished prepping for this team, so really excited for week 1. Yeah, I agree with you. Like he has some really strong options. Like obviously the Wizards mainly being the special attackers of the team, are just both really strong. Delphox being relatively slow, base 104. Yeah, it is above 100 speed, but it is pretty slow for being in that tier with Trick Room as well. So it's really nice for those lower end picks like Diplin and the Gradient. Um, and then he doesn't have beat up from the looks of it. So he can't really utilize Justified with the Virizion, but it is still a strong offensive grass type that is a fighting type portion to it. So close combats are going to hit really, really hard. Yeah, overall he's a really strong team. Really scary to face week 1. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
All right, done. Let's hear your take.
Okay, well, I agree with the Wizards are quite strong in the team. For me, it's a team of highs and lows because you've got some solid picks, like you've got Miss Magius, you've got Delphox, Greedent, Diplin. Virizian's kind of skirting the line. It is good, but it's not as good as the others. Squawkabilly, I've not really used it to be honest, but it seems like it can do some decent things. I do agree that I believe the Bards let the team down. Litten is the kind of the black sheep of that evolutionary lineup because the other two find some solid uses and Litten is just there. And from personal experience, Spied Ops isn't too impressive, even though I'm fairly certain at Steerad in the league. Actually, I think if I remember right, he actually beat me with one, but it's just not. It's not great. So I don't really know what it would provide here.
Why don't we go over the 3 mons that we think they're going to keep? I'll just start. With absolutely no bias in my heart whatsoever, I think he will keep Miss Magius. I actually think there's a really strong case Diplin stays because that's a really bulky, hard to remove Eviolite user, even with ice moves, since it can't be knocked off thanks to one of its abilities. And I think he'll keep Virizion because he can easily pick up beat up in one of the higher tiers and just open that whole mode up. Whichever one of you wants to go next, feel free.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would.
cool.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Miss Meg. I think he keeps some Spagius. I also think he'll keep Delphox. Honestly, I think it's kind of hard as you move up the tiers to find a good Trick Room user. So having something with a low tier Trick Room option is really nice. And then I also agree. Like I think he used Rizion because it's going to be easy to find some sort of beat up user as you move up. So I would say those 3 he keeps.
Alright, done.
I think with this one, I think both the Wizards stay. So I think Miss Magius and Delphox stay because they're just too good for the tier that they're in to get rid of. But I think Diplin stays as well. I'm with you. I can see a strong argument for Diplin staying, even when they might not want to use Super Sweet Syrup. I think it will have a lot of value even later on in the league.
Yes, I was originally wanting Virizion for myself as I have a beat up on Ambipom, but when they took it, I was like, oh, no one's gonna take this mod. Hardly no one has beat up. But I actually think it made my draft better, so I thank the Brooklyn Paradox for giving Virizion a home. Alright, next up, and Miss Magus, giving 2 of my favorite mons a home. Let's go on to our second to last team, which is the Sacramento Sandslash, coached by Pat Mack himself, our fearless leader and commissioner. Which one of us wants to start by tackling the boss's team? And I'll jump at once.
Go. Oh.
Let's go, Dud.
I was just about to say, it very much feels like a Pat team. He's got this habit of kind of. He seems to hone in on like the value picks of every tier, and he seems to pick them all and put them together in a really effective team. And I think he's pretty much done the same thing. So he's got He's got a Tailwind setter with Oricorio. He's got a Trick Room setter with Trevenant. He's got Intimidate. He's got Bulk. He's got a Fast Attacker. He's got Fake Out Pressure. I think there's very little that he hasn't covered with his mons. I can't. Well, I mean, obviously not he's not got terrains or weather, but not that he needs them with this team either. He's put together a really solid team.
All right, Ted. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I would say like he's another team that's gone with value. I think the Intimidate support with Tauros is really nice. Having Sheer Force as well is the main difference between Kanto Tauros and the Paldean ones. I think Sheer Force is a really strong ability with like Body Slam and Double Edge and stuff like that. So this is just overall really strong Pokemon. Like Dunn mentioned, like Trick Room and Tailwind is really good with the Oricorio and the Trevenant. And then Minior is a little interesting Pokemon as well. Having access to Shell Smash and Shields Down is a really nice combo. Being able to at least take a hit before Shields Down is over is really nice as well. Regice is an interesting pick as well. It's not my favorite of the Regis, but it is a really strong Ice type. Can hit decently hard with Ice Beam and Ancient Power and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really strong options. He just has a really well balanced team that he's drafted. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I can agree with the sentiments. We all know Pat pretty well. Pat tends to really enjoy drafting these balanced comps. I would say my favorite mod on the team is that Regice. It's just basically an unkillable special wall under the right circumstances, which really allows you to invest pretty heavily in its defensive stat. Yeah, Ice typing as its only typing is not like super desirable. It's got like 5 or 6 weaknesses, but in this low tier power level, I feel like it's the raw stats can really win you out, in spite of some of those weak points. So let's talk about 3 mons to keep. I'll start with you, Ted.
I say he keeps Tauros most definitely. I think he actually keeps Skuntank as well. I think it's a really useful poison type with different utility moves as well. And I also think that he keeps either Minior or Choreo. I think having some sort of variation of Tailwind in the low tier is really nice. So yeah, I would say that.
All right, Dunn. What do you think he's gonna keep in through the next round?
Well, I'm trying to channel the Pat way of thinking. I think he keeps Alomomola, partially because it's a solid low tier mon, partially because Anthony had a bit of a dispute with him considering it's his fish, air quotes. So I think he keeps that. I could see Regice and Trevenant staying as well.
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I'll probably agree that this will be another one of those keeping like Trevenant and Oricorio, like keep the big speed controls, and then you keep the Regice as like your low tier, your low power, high static mon, because you can just ride that out with supporting it and the rest of the team with stronger available Pokemon. Alright, with that being said, we got one last team, and the coach of this team should be no surprise. It is Ted and his Sky Strikers. I'll let Dunn just dive into this real fast.
Yes, do it.
Okay, well, that sounded like a challenge then. This honestly, you made some good picks, Ted. I quite like the Bruxish is quite a good pick. Flygon, I'm not too familiar with. I think it's doing all right. It has some niches this gen. I think it's doing okay. Pyro's good. Tropius is pretty good. Tailwind. I almost said Trick Room. I meant the complete opposite. Riolu, I'm not surprised you picked Riolu. You love that mon, so I'm surprised that went to you. I'm not surprised that went to you, I should say. Berserker and Jigglypuff, good picks as well. The only thing I'm not really a fan of is the Rotom. I'm not entirely sure what it provides for you, but other than that, it's a decent team.
Yeah, I have to agree. This team is terrifying, and not for nothing. I know you might be upset that I took Gogoat from you, but after looking at your comp, I'm kind of happy I did. I think Gogoat would have just made this team like god tier impressive, especially this early on. However, I think Tropius was a very good adjustment. Having some light sun synergy with your little prankster Riolu that you love to draft so much. As far as the Rotom Comet, it provides a nice Disquake mode next to the Flygon. I absolutely love Bruxious. Like, you drafted a real strong team of synergy and value picks. I think this is probably like ideally like almost the perfect balance for this format. You even have a pretty good range of speed tiers, which is something that's very hard to achieve this early on. You have some good fast stuff, and you also have some decent slow options. So yeah, well done, man. What do you think of your own team?
Yeah, I would say, looking at my type chart, I probably out of all the teams, I have the most non-weaknesses. I do share an Ice type weakness with 3 Pokemon, but that's okay. I cover it pretty well. But yeah, I have some. Honestly, the breakfast pick, I was kind of debating whether or not I should pick War Turtle in the Paladin tier. It was between that and Brushes, but I really wanted to pick Brushes mostly because I would kind of want to stop like priority and stuff, because like priority here in the early game is really annoying to deal with. So having Dazzling to stop that is really nice and useful. Pyro is also one of my favorite picks. I did have a dispute air quotes with Pat about it. He also wanted the Pyro. But yeah, I felt like it fit pretty well. Having like a strong normal type in addition with the fire typing is really nice. And then like you guys mentioned, Riolu is my baby. I love Riolu. Prankster weather and Prankster coaching is really nice to have here in the early game. So yeah, I'm excited to use this team in the first 2 weeks.
All right. Well, why don't we talk to you about your 3 bonds that you may or may not keep. You don't obviously have to reveal your plan if you thought that far, but talk to us about 3 of these guys that you think you'll take with you to the next round.
I would say I keep Riolu, Pyroar, and it's either between Bruxish or Flygon.
Yeah, I would probably agree with those exact same 3 picks. I probably would say definitely Riolu, definitely Pyroar, and probably Bruxish, but I also love Bruxish, so a little bit biased. Done? What do you think?
Well, clearly the Riolu staying. I don't think that's up for debate. I think Bruxish stays, and I think Berserker, and I have one word to describe why. Goldango. I could see a Steely Spirit make it rain in our future.
Yeah, that's pretty dangerous. I should probably draft a wide guard user. Thanks for the heads up.
No worries.
I have one as well, and I have one as well in Tropius. Wyguard is really good.
See, you didn't even go, man. You were just like the Tropius does so much more for your team. I saw you pick that up. I was like, ah, shit. I think maybe I should have just let him have to go. But anyways, we're gonna just move into the last thing on our agenda today. Is these are our top 3 picks. I didn't find it in any particular order. I do not know if you guys did, but these are the guild leaders' top leeches. So based on the teams as they are right now, because there won't be any transactions made for 2 weeks, these are the teams that we think are the strongest and will see some success. So Ted, you can feel free to talk about your 3 choices.
So yeah, looking at like everybody's choices, I think we're pretty similar, me, you, and Miss Mag. Especially the top 2 with Miss Med, your team and Anthony's team. I see you picked my team as number 3. I don't quite agree with that. I would mostly definitely say there's other better teams, but I think New has a really strong team. With the Virizion, and like we said, like with Miss Magius and Delphox, so I put him at number 3.
Okay, fair enough. Dunn, do you want to talk about your top 3?
Well, first things first, I feel a bit left out here, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I kind of, as you'd probably tell from the way I was speaking about the teams in the actual power rankings, I think Pat is very much has a team that's just a force to be reckoned with. These are all in no specific order, by the way. Roidman, as I said, it's a team of surprises, so I think that's going to do quite well. And Miss Mag's just got a solid team. I think it's just going to do well.
Fair enough. I mean, it's hard to, get solid teams even for this space, so don't feel too bad about being left out. But I'll just round it off with talking about my top 3. I'll address Ted's point first. I can understand not thinking about your own team, but when I looked a little bit deeper into your team, especially because I know a lot of the mons that you've drafted, I've played with them before, and coupled with the fact that there's no Terra, despite the fact that you have a lot of mons that have dual typings that can be exploited, the synergy was just so kind of profound that I thought it actually bumped up a lot of teams that were not as synergistic. And the real thing that won me over was honestly your speed tiers. Like your speed tiers are so quite clean for this stage in the draft. That is hella impressive. I will not lie. Yours and Anthony's speed tiers are actually fairly clean. I'm not saying they don't have any holes in them because you only have 8 Pokemon, but like for having those 8 Pokemon, your speed tiers for both of your teams are very, very good. And I think that's important when you have an early meta game where speed control is not always the most conventional for a lot of teams. And then finally, I do actually think that I put together a pretty crackerjack type squad. I normally never vote my own team to be at the top of power rankings, but I can't deny that I put together something pretty devious for the first 2 weeks. So I'm excited to use it and see what people try to bring to stop my kingdom. Do you guys have any final words before we sign off?
I wish everybody luck, especially here in the first 2 weeks. It's kind of iffy at the moment because there's not enough high power level mons to just steamroll completely. So I'm really excited to see what everybody cooks up. And I'll see you guys after week 2 when we make our first transactions.
None? Any final words?
I was going to try work up the courage to do the old man voice I did in the reveal video, but I haven't quite worked up the courage. But what I will say is I am quite looking forward to see what people can do with the teams that they've got at the moment, and I'm looking forward to see how they evolve as well.
Alright. Yes, I will also echo the TGR sentiment. Good luck and have fun always, but I also express a lot of intrigue and excitement for this format. Just for like my personal first no Terra experience, and to see what you guys will end up cooking up for these early weeks. Yeah, but with that being said, we are gonna sign off here, and may the odds forever be in your favor. Thanks for coming out, guys.
See ya.